This slideshow is about photosynthesis versus cellular respiration. Today what we're going to do is we're going to use these assets and determine to use which assets for which process, photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Slide number 3 says, drop in the pictures that are needed for photosynthesis. Draw the arrows to show what is needed for photosynthesis, reactants, and draw arrows for what comes out, the product. Explain with words, photosynthesis. Explain what is needed, the reactants for photosynthesis, what comes out of photosynthesis, the product. And then you're going to place these pictures on photosynthesis page, this page, which is slide 4. Place assets that have to do with photosynthesis. So you're going to go back up to the assets page, and you're going to grab all the things that you feel are important for photosynthesis. So you're looking at all these pictures. Now this picture here, these two bean-looking things, these are actually the mitochondria. And if you think mitochondria is needed for photosynthesis, then that would be what you need to pick out. But you can see other things here as well. Like for instance, we need this, the chemical equation. We need the trees. We're going to need some chloroplast. So this picture here, this is the chloroplast. And that is where photosynthesis occurs, so you will definitely need that. You're going to need, then if we read this from left to right, we start up here with the CO2, then we know, let me get rid of some of this marks here. So if I start with this CO2, I'm going to need CO2. So I'm going to make sure I copy and paste my CO2. The next one, if I go from left to right, is going to be the H2O. So I'm going to grab myself some water. And then we need some sunshine. We need some sugar. That was this one. This is our C6H12O6. And we'll need some O2, some oxygen. And that's this one. So I copied all those assets and I brought them onto slide number 4. After bringing them onto slide number 4, I need to start rearranging my assets to be what should come in and go out of the product, out of the photosynthesis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my chemical formula centered. So I'm going to get rid of that text that I don't need that was on top. There were just instructions to say place your photosynthesis here. I'm going to center my chemical equations so it looks nice. And it says I need some 6CO2 plus 6H2O. And I need some type of energy source so that I can make my sugar and my oxygen. And so I need my sun, because my sun is my energy source for this for it to happen. Now remember, photosynthesis is about just making food. So first thing I need, making food for what? First thing I have to have, or it's never going to happen, is I need to have some type of plant. In this case, I picked trees, but this could be any plant, any type of plant at all. It could be grass, it could be the food we eat, it could be seaweed, anything it makes its own food. And to make its own food, it has to have chlorophyll. They all have chlorophyll. And it's done with chloroplast. It's done in the chloroplast, which is an organelle inside each cell. And there's many organelles in each cell. And that's how it makes its own food, is through this organism called chloroplast. Now, if I just read from left to right, it says I need some CO2. So I'm just going to place my CO2 right up there next to it, because CO2 is found where? CO2 is found in the air. And then, of course, we have water. And water, well, it comes from the sky, but it also comes from sprinklers, and it comes from the rivers. And so I put it up in the air, but it could be in the ground as well because you have water that's in the ground, that the trees have the roots that can help bring up the nutrient, the water from the ground. And then we're going to talk about the reactants. And so that means that the CO2 and the water and the sun all have to go into the chlorophyll, the chloroplast. If it's all put into the chloroplast, then we're going to make a product. We're going to get something out of it. And again, if I just go from left to right, I'm going to get the C6H12O6, which is our sugar or glucose, and it stays within the plant. So I'm just going to put it down there next to the tree. It doesn't come out of the plant until something happens. Either we burn it or we eat it, depending on what the plant is. We cut it, but somehow that it is stored within the plant, the sugar, which is the glucose, which has a lot of carbon. And then the last one is we're going to go ahead and it's going to make us some oxygen that goes out into the atmosphere and enables us to breathe. And so again, the inputs are the reactants. So I get the CO2, I get the water molecules, I need the energy from the sun for this to happen. And then once this happens, I'm going to get a sugar molecule, C6H12O6, plus I'm going to get some CO2. Now, this is the assignment, and it also asks you to explain what is photosynthesis. So here's an example. Photosynthesis is the process for the plant to make its own food. The sugar molecules, C6H12O6, stays in the plant, which makes it grow and become the plant that it is. The oxygen molecule, O2, is released into the atmosphere for the animal world to breathe in to stay alive. This is what you should have had. If you want to go ahead and copy this, you're more than welcome to copy this. I wish you'd use some of your own words. But as far as copying this, I'm okay with that. You need to understand this is what happens with photosynthesis. But you need to work on the next stage, which is going to be the cellular respiration. So you're going to go back to your assets page. And back in your assets page, you're going to have to start picking out what is needed for cellular respiration. And again, the one thing I told you was this, since it's not labeled, I want to make sure you know what it is. This is the mitochondria. So if you read that paper that talks about cellular respiration, you know that mitochondria is important for cellular respiration. You're going to need to copy the chemical formula. And you're going to need to do the same thing. So the chemical formula. And these are mitochondria. So you're going to do the same thing as you did with slide 4, but this time you're going to move into slide 6. You're going to drop in the pictures that's needed for cellular respiration. Draw the arrow to show what is needed for cellular respiration, the reactants, and draw arrows of what comes out, the product. Explain with words what is cellular respiration. Explain what is needed. Reactants for cellular respiration is what comes out of cellular respiration, the product. Explain why cellular respiration is important. What does cellular respiration do? So photosynthesis, you know photosynthesis, it enables the plant to make its own food because it can't eat a hamburger, it can't eat pizza. It can't drink a soda. So it has to make its own food within. And so what is cellular respiration? What's the difference? So again, on slide 6, you can explain what cellular respiration, you put all your assets here. So you're going to place your design like you did in slide 4 for photosynthesis, but this time it's for cellular respiration. So you go back to your assets, pick out what you need for your cellular respiration, which of course you need the cellular respiration chemical formula. Remember, those are mitochondria. I don't want you to forget that. Obviously, you're going to need them. And then just like you did with this photosynthesis, you have to put in where things go to. What is it being used? So for photosynthesis, if you don't have a plant, then you're not going to get photosynthesis. That's where it all occurs at, in the chloroplast. Well, I'll give you a hint. The mitochondria is like the chloroplast. Everything happens at the chloroplast. But you need to use all the different elements that need to have cellular respiration to happen inside it. And so you'll have to pick those pictures out. Then you're going to go to slide 6, and then slide 6 says, it's a cellular respiration place assets that have to do with respiration. So it says make a copy of your photosynthesis page and place it at slide 7. So slide number 4, move it down to slide number 7 and let slide number 7 drop down to slide number 8. And you're going to take that page and delete the sun from the equation. We're going to say, okay, the sun, we can't see the sun now. So we cannot see the sun, and we can't use the sun's energy. What would happen to photosynthesis if for whatever reason the sun was not able to be seen and we could not utilize the sun's energy? Do not talk about it would just be cold. Let's stick right to the photosynthesis equation. What's going to happen to the equation? What's going to happen to all the output of the chemical equation? And then you're going to do the same thing when it comes to the respiration. So you're going to copy slide number 6, and you're going to place it right here below slide number 7, which would be your photosynthesis page, explaining what would happen if there's no sun. And again, on this page, you can explain what would happen to respiration if photosynthesis did not receive the sunlight. And try to write down in some type of details. Explain the science. I think the key word is explain the science of what's going to happen. Don't just tell me it's going to get cold. Don't tell me things are going to die. Please explain to me what is the science. Explain it through the chemical reaction, what's going to happen. Okay, well, I hope this clears things up. I hope that it makes sense. And use these for more information if you have questions. Okay, good luck.